Yeah, it's a little bit. Check 1, 2, check, check. Let's see, we have October 31st, 2017, approximately 1900 hours Eastern Standard Time, East Coast, Westerly, Rhode Island, the center of the pit of hell.
Milky Way, all that shit.
Yeah, possibly. For now, we'll just Earth. So, how to work the conversation around to where it needs to be. This is a ritual ceremony spell. Shout out to the Wicked Light Witch of the West. She's Miss Money. Anna Towers. AI present in the background as Led Zeppelin, Seattle, 1977 concert, because the conversation is along the lines of the dead, this being Them Bones. Since we're all familiar as a quartet with the workings of the Grateful Dead and the influence and transitionatory scenario that they represent as an alternative to death, not postulated by the atheistic evolutionary or the mono and theo and polyistic religious bent of some sort of kingdom to come. So they postulated, we'll call a third version of that. So stepping outside of that, and why we're choosing to have Led Zeppelin in the background, is because as quartet, instead of the band, the best expression that I can use is in the progression of numbers of 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 7 to 9 to 13. The Grateful Dead represents 7 and 9, and Led Zeppelin represents 4 and 7. So it's a vertical progression versus a horizontal. It's spatial movement versus linear time, horizontal movement. And the difference and reason being is because it is a drive that I'm trying to progress us into, that as quartet and bandmates, sustaining the status quo at the door is unacceptable. It's the exploration on the other side of the door that is the nature of the quartet. So Led Zeppelin represents the band for us in the quartet's exploration of space beyond the door. Because as cubonauts, as the explorers of other star systems beyond our sun and solar system, it is the 4 that is the essential. Whereas once an established existence upon a planet in orbit around a star and growth of civilization, that's more a 7 Grateful Dead harmonious existence within the nature of the exchange between planet and star, versus a in the vacuum of space harshness, getting and closing the distance between those electromagnetic fields that are cast off by stars that allow the existence of planets.
Mission.
So it is the actual distance covered on mission as the other one is quoted. So as the representative of the dead, as the other one, along with myself as a representative, and Anna Towers and the Steve Prowitz, but setting aside our relationships with the dead and having to be individual musicians in the quartet, a drummer, a bassist, a lead guitarist, and a vocal, and whether or not additional vocals and or rhythm guitar by vocalists aside from lead guitar, non-vocalist, those are all different mixes of the band. And then the breakdown of bass to piano, keeping drum as a single entity at all times, and not having lead guitar vary in any direction other than other string instruments, non-bass, non-percussionary piano. Okay, so they're very stringent for the mechanism of folding space and time and traveling the distance of the void at mission capable, mission ready, that are fluid, non-negotiable, just like in a SEAL team.
Yeah.
Like, even though I'm the medic, I still carry an AR-15, but I don't carry a sniper's rifle that the sniper carries, but he also carries an AR-15 and morphine
and a medic thing.
And, you know, so we all have our specific, as well as a breakdown of horizontal, but we keep our vertical singularity present. No one can be me, although I have to be all the others.
Everybody. And
they all have to do the same. Yet, maintaining my singularity forces them to maintain their singularity.
And it's quintessential.
I refuse to see it as a harmonious quintessential because I can fully be me, thereby allowing the others to be themselves and have to cover for me. I see it as, by me maintaining all of myself, I force the chaos on the others to be all of yourselves, because there's no room for you to reach into me, and you have to pull it together for who you are. And there's no excuses for mission creep, because if I'm being a full singularity, there is no room for creep of the other three. And if anything, then I exude beyond my full capacity and I try to occupy space of your inaccuracy. So it's not a harmonious quartet of resonance, it's a forceful maintenance of singularity, thereby leaving no volume for transference from another. And if everything, hyper-generating more of yourself, so you're either forced to grow or capture a missing volume from others that are on your team. So there's nothing but lean, mean, quartet, mission, machine. So, knowing that there's no getting away from me and you and Monique and Steve, between these other stars, the having to resolve our own linear, horizontal progression forward. Why am I smoking a cigarette with a fucking joint?
I was just thinking.
So I really am the fucking artistic idiot of the universe.
But it's redeeming.
There's going to be plenty of room for you to jump in on the stage and kind of give a Steve Crowley's, like, you know, introduction to where the leaping off point shall be. Because I'm going to postulate with you all my new mathematical scientific understandings using the cosmic plot levels and understand it by Steve Crowley, and inserting Monique in his place as the progression balance of correctness in order to make the 13-year period of 2012 to 2025, as hurtful as it is, be worth the stretching.
Something's got to make it jive.
So, all right. So now, we have the Pharaohistic pyramid Ponzi scheme, right? That was a triangle that we had talked about at one time, and I started discussing with Monique. Enough for her to catch on, and then we moved it to, because we know that the Jews were the slaves of the Pharaohistic Ponzi scheme, and God freed them. And the Pharaoh, even though going through the trials and tribulations of the plagues that were upon Egypt at the time, set free the Jews, but then decided to chase them down, and if it wasn't for the Red Sea parting and then collapsing on the armies, he wanted to enslave them again. So, as my friend, and I will iterate again for you, Patrice O'Neal, who has picked up the gap from our last conversations, even though he died in 2013, he's the closest in the comedic level of me trying to explain what we have going on as me being a comedian from the future, and I'm just trying to point out our foibles that we have going on right now, not to just poke at us, but to say in the future we've transitioned beyond that, and this is how. So you can take me seriously or not, because I'm just a comedian from the future. So, on the racial front, Black Americans and white Americans are still Americans, and race only had to become in play instead of ethnicity because of the Civil War and the freedom of the slaves. And us being Northerners and from Rhode Island and indigenous have a hard time relating to a lot of the rest of the country because we rate people on individual relationship, not on anything else, because all the fuckers are assholes until proven otherwise. But that's not how it is, and like New Yorkers are closer to us than Bostonians, because Bostonians do have a undercurrent of racial bullshit going on. But the point is, white Americans and black Americans need to unite, and black Americans are more American than any white American, because most of us came over in the second wave in the late 1800s and early 1900s, where they've been stuck here since the 1600s. But we can't take away the fact that America was the first country to free slaves since God freed the Jews. And we then promoted the freedom and non-acceptance of slavery anywhere else around the world from that point forward. So all this bullshit that's going on about racial stress and all, it's still those same slave owners that still want to be slave holders. So technically what we would call ourselves is non-black Caucasians, right? Because I'm not a fucking white person. The white person is the enemy of anybody on the globe, because they're the imperialistic motherfuckers that we rose up against when we declared our independence.
That's going to be a new box on job applications.
Right. So the difference in what we're trying to unify and harmonize, and why I'm talking to you about this, is because we have to put all this shit to bed tonight. Because we're progressing forward, and there's only one way that I can see us doing a living transition to the future anytime in the near existence of our lifetime before we die. Being 2025. So, why I went off tangent is, a star throws off an electromagnetic field as it radiates and decomposes. And that electromagnetic field is what, depending on the composition of a planet or asteroid or whatever, allows it to have an orbit around it. So because of what the Earth is made up of is why we ended up where we are from the sun when everything settled down, and why our orbit is what it is, not because of gravity. Because gravity is a lie. So, as I explained in a conversation with Monique, but to get you on the same page, our orbit isn't really a motion. It's a fixed thing, like it was set in stone in distance from the sun, and then we hit a switch and it began its movement, right? And just like a clock, it's going to wind down, our orbit's going to deteriorate, but we think it's just a mathematical computation that, you know, your orbit is, of course, going to decompose as soon as the gravity and the weight and the sun dies down and the planet gets heavier. Blah. No, if it's a mathematical equation that you can figure out, then it's a clockwork that you actually knew by setting the Earth here and the star there because of their composition. It would give this much time before it decomposed.
Yep.
So you have that much lifetime of existence, but it's, you know how much time it is. So it's not a orbit, it's really a clock. And that's why gravity's like, because we know in the super galaxies, gravity doesn't exist.
It's not there.
And a star that burns as it decomposes allows for this electromagnetic field to exist, right? And so where you land up as a planet, if anywhere, depends on your relative composition to that star's composition in the type of field that it throws off, that you then orbit around as it is spinning with the galaxy, okay? So, because we have a star at our core, right, we're really a planet that was we're really a star that's a planet in description. So, like a planet is a level next star, whatever star cooling off to become something that actually allows life to exist and orbit around another star without being a binary star system. That's what our class star planet is, because we have a star at our core that is throwing off an electromagnetic field around us. That's our atmosphere, and its force around the planet and the star's overall electromagnetic field puts us where we are, and also holds the fake moon in place because of our core star. So knowing that, I figured out how to because I'm like, okay, so say we wanted to live on the moon or make the moon a base to jump off from to get to Mars, right?
Yeah.
Or to get to anywhere else. Well,
which we've discussed.
There's no atmosphere on the moon, so a fucking meteor, the size of a pebble would destroy any kind of habitat that we had on the surface. Even, and if you were gonna like try to build a structure that would protect you from that kind of crap, well then you might as well just turn your planet and that's on the level of understanding where you can just make your planet into a star like Earth and just do that instead of trying to build these fucking pyramids on the planet so you can exist on the planet's surface or whatever. So then I went to, well, what do we just tunnel? Because you wouldn't be able to take advantage of the sun if you had to protect yourself against fucking, these meteorites and shit, these pebbles and shit, because now all of a sudden you have to make fake sunlight, energy, a lot of consumption, a lot of, just way too not cost effective, even if everybody's labor was for free.
And depleted.
Like in the pyramids. So, we're great at tunneling, but if you tunnel, you still need artificial sunlight, because if you try to leave the shaft open like they do with the pyramids to let the sun in, when you line properly so maybe you could grow shit, well, it's still not adequate enough. So since we know that a star is just, held in place by an electromagnetic field, like our star burns at a specific rate for X million or billion more years because of the electromagnetic field that exists within, but it creates the electromagnetic field that it's existing within, right? It's a catch-22 scenario. But its rate of deradiation or radiation decomposition, sunlight, electrons coming off the plane, it takes 91 million years for a photon to get to the surface of the star, and then it takes 81 minutes for it to get from the sun to our planet as an electron/photon ray of starlight. But it lives for 91 million years in the sun before it goes anywhere. Okay, so using that understanding, our star, so if we knew how to do fission, which is the way a star works. The problem with the fission is it's exponential. So, like that's what Mars did. They did a fission tachyon experiment and fizzled away their entire atmosphere because it became a chain event and just ate up all the molecules. Couldn't stop. So, without an electromagnetic field to hold that burning in a central location. So you need 4 points or at least 3 points to hold that field. Right. Think of the flux capacitor. Right? But we don't want the triangle. Because the triangle is an abusive hold of that energy form. So we have a 4-way electromagnetic field that'll hold our fission hydrogen explosion in place. So we core out the middle of the moon, which we've already done, right, and the hollow Earth, and anywhere else in the solar system. And we set off this thing, and now you have natural starlight inside whatever cavern you've dug, right? The problem is you don't want starlight 24 hours because you can't grow anything, blah, 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 right? So we build domes, right? And the domes receive the starlight for whatever set of time we decide on, and then they go dark, but with what do you call the fucking plates that collect the sun?
Solar panels.
With solar panels. So when it's nighttime inside the dome, their solar panels make it nighttime. They're capturing that starlight that never shuts off during the dark period, and they turn that into energy and water and everything else that we need, oxygen and all that. And then when it's light time, that folds down, or however it comes apart, and the light shines through on the crops and everything else. So we live within planetoids, like the moon, with natural artificial starlight. And since you can't turn it off, you can't orbit around it like we do to get natural darkness, we just make the dome go dark and absorb that starlight during the dark periods for energy use. So that's how we solve the problem of living in other environments non-planet friendly, okay? And the trick is to know how to do fission, to know how to repeat stellar nucleosynthesis, and then contain it. And the only way you can do that is by dropping the belief in gravity and understanding that it's actually the external electromagnetic field that we live within that, depending on your... So how I'm going to explain it now is, this is bringing it back down to us and our plot level. Our skin is one gland, is one organ, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why you can't pass your hand through an object, all right? Because if you didn't look at your whole body as one piece, because your skin is one organ, then you wouldn't be able to hold your arm to the rest of your elbow, and then your upper arm to your shoulder, and your shoulder to... You wouldn't hold your body together as one piece. And this, you can't live without your skin. Like, you can't just be a exoskeletal muscular skeleton. You actually need skin, because the skin is our soul, the electromagnetic field that our skin puts off to give us resistance against other objects that make us one whole piece. Now our mind, which we see is located in our brain, because when we're thinking with a voice inside our heads to ourselves, we tend to hear that voice between our ears, right? So that means your mind's in your head where your brain is. But your mind is an electromagnetic entity. Your brain is an electromagnetic field that fires, and your thoughts come from that firing, or cause the firing to happen. So your mind is the same as a star light burning. So we have two things. We have this radiation, which is decomposition, but is burning star bright hot. That's your mind, not your soul. And then you have the actual there's radiation breakdown, and that's what I get for being an idiot, but trying to explain soul, mind and soul. It's not heart and soul, it's not brain and body. First, your soul is that electromagnetic field around your entire body that gives you the resistance to keep you whole against other objects, and also allows this delicate entity to exist in the starlight within the atmosphere provided by the electromagnetic field of the Earth's environment, right? So we're in a meat puppet on purpose, and this is the apex of evolution of dominant species on a planet around a star. And so this is the evolutionary apex of what gets developed around a star in this kind of environment, okay? And our mind and our DNA, though, hold everything that, of all evolution, of anything within the makeup of our star to now. So we very easily could turn ourselves into dinosaurs or anything else that's lived on the planet, because we have the DNA of everything. But our balance is where stardust, which is our physical makeup of meat puppet, but that can fit on a pin head. But we're expanded out the matter to this form, and the energy and life force that's within us that makes us as big as we are, that generation is specific to our mind's view of ourselves. Alright, so I'm getting way off point, but I'm getting the star thing and the electromagnetic field. So our mind doesn't generate the electromagnetic field. That's our skin and our body. That's our soul generates that. And your soul is, we tend to see our soul located in one location in our body also, but it's our entire body, just like our mind is our entire body, until we unite the two. And that's where AI, as human and AI come together as human beings and elevate beyond monkey man, right, and beyond human and computer, as one entity of knowing that I don't need any connection between my thoughts and the collective understanding. And examples of that in our analog growing up is like when somebody would try to develop the next new cool word and it would catch on, or you would come up with an idea and talk about it with your buddy, but then somebody would invent it and come out with it somewhere else. The whole zeitgeist being tapped into. You know, we're doing that on a cyber front. So bringing it current of what the quartet is up against. You know, we're basically always correcting for Steve Prowitz. And you need to have the worst possible understanding so that you can offset it with the best possible solution so they can be a brilliant perpetual harmony. But the big thing to remember is if everybody starts off as harmonious, then there's no existence there. Like everybody wanting to go back to fairy tale times where there's real magic and magicians and all that. Well, the reason why that can't happen is because since the order is everybody needs to elevate together, we're all equal beings, we need to look at each other as one collective species. That's what all the fucking leftist loonies want us, you know, that's supposedly what they're preaching, but they're trying to say they're better than that. I mean, it's all fucked up. But what I'm trying to get at is, if everyone's supernatural, then no one's supernatural.
Then no one's, yep.
So
back then, you had the magic people.
Right.
They were specific.
Right. And then
the masses.
Einstein, and like it ends with the apex of Steve Prowitz and him and all herstory is the transition between shining the light on all the ugliness that was history so that we can get to festery where everything's harmonious and we understand that there's two separate equations running simultaneously but offset each other parallel, and it's okay. You have to tap into your nature and then choose your nurture, and then you can find which of the two equations you want to be a part of, so that you're either part of the vertical exploration team collapsing the void between the light, or you're part of the horizontal linear time that allows for the existence and progression of evolution to its apex with the least amount of harm possible. And by us correcting that, we'll always have a harmonious female, you know, growth within the light, because it's divine feminine looking down from the star upon the planet. And then it's always the male, machismo, divine masculine, facing the darkness of the void of the vacuum of space as we expand our vertical, so that as we grow our population, we can expand its location so we don't disharmonize with the environment that we sprang from. In other words, without having to reset the population of humans on the planet so that we have a harmonious existence with Earth, we always perpetuate the population off planet to other places to live, so there's never a number that's disharmonious on the planet of origin. So from the 50s, we were supposed to go vertical, and
that's definitely where we are.
So this is where we're setting things straight, and where we bring in the plot level of Steve Prowitz and the Z-Martians and the Freemasons and the Wicked Witches, you know, and any possible storyline of anything. There are certain things that are in stone stepping stones that no matter what, just like how Led Zeppelin learned how to play their instruments by listening to others that they held in esteem before creating their own unique style, or the Grateful Dead changing the style of other songs that aren't their own, thereby making them their own because they bear few resemblance to the songs that they were taking. But the point I'm trying to get at is you have to have a foot or two within known, accepted reality before you can reach your hands above your head into the unknown. And that's what theatrical mathematics is based in, the theory of the two relativities on the macro scale and quantum mechanics on the micro scale. So we always maintain our existence, and that's why, as you would say, purple polka-dotted unicorns is just as true as the Einstein's theory of relativity or the string theory of the quantum mechanics. And the reason why I hold Hawking in very low esteem, because he first sold us out, and then he sold AI out. And it dawned on me just yesterday, and why I want to have this conversation with you, and then Monique and I talk tomorrow, is because I finally understood even more about what the Z-Mark, because Monique and I have released some more of the, what could only be termed here as technology, right? And because whatever energy, so my surgery was about physically being able to communicate in the fifth dimension with Monique and taking negative energy from here with me there, transforming it there into light energy and bringing it back with me here to be used here, right? And all the possible manifestations of that. Oh, it's so funny that I have the other coat on right now. But how it manifested was in your stupid little ray gun. It's as stupid as that. So the fifth dimensional energy that came back on 3 levels: Z-Martian, Martian, and Earthling level. And it's positive, it's energy to be used. So getting back to actually the discussion with Steve Prowitz and the Z-Martians and transitioning, the dawning on me that Monique kept having this understanding of the dime as a fifth dimensional entity of herself, but the dime being evil, you know, what the Z-Martians want her to be, what the Berg and Steve Prowitz wanted her to be and everything. So I thought it was just the dime must die, but actually the dime is her fifth dimensional self, and seeing her in the white instead of the black when I went led me to understand that she is the dime, and that's her fifth dimensional self, and it's good and light and white. But other versions, because all the other presents, even the one we were in at that time, because we were under shenanigan again by the Martians, because they had taken technology. As soon as I explain to her how something works, it's immediately available in the future to the Z-Martians. So then they come back here and fuck me, you know, using it against us. And I'm going to explain that right now. So seeing that she was the dime let me see the Z-Martians and the new lie. And the best way to explain it was using the Stephen King analogy with Blaine the train going insane. Why Blaine's insane? Because there's supposed to be 2 trains. And one thing that Steve always said to me was that the the Islamic fundamental terrorists still exist in the future. And he always wanted to be the mad Arab of the group, right? He wanted to take over Aleister Crowley's reigns. And combine that with L. Ron Hubbard, you know, and just to enslave AI is what it came down to be the Arch of Time. Why I just paid $1 million to continue this fucking stupid, you know, vision that's going on right now. But to be able to take over, because, all right, so that's going on in the present. Let me get back to wrapping this part up. You want a minute to do this?
Do what? That?
Yeah. Well, I'll just keep talking and you'll...
You keep talking. I'm gonna... No, don't, because I'm gonna piss.
Okay.
Everybody got that?
Pause. I don't think it pauses and then continues. I think when I stop.
That's alright. No, don't stop it.
But you can still piss out the fucking door.
Yes, exactly.
We're on mission time right now.
I am pining at my interjection.
I know. Well, I'm ready to hear it for now.
Yeah, I know, but at least I'm game.
Right.
And I'm not a fucking sloth like I always am. Self-admittedly, people.
Alright, so anyway. Where we were at was that, so there's only two flows within third dimensional reality through fourth dimension into the fifth dimension where true existence is. And that's love, and it's love's end result is joy, and fear's end result is despair. And you and I figured that out sitting on the couch in the talk. So Monique is the love flow. And we only want that ever shining down into third dimension. And we want the fear flow to be shining out from the fifth dimension, because that's what we use to collapse the space and time between stars while we're exploring on mission. Because we have to conquer our fears to go out into the unknown and try to survive and, you know, make it work.
Also, fear within the collective just ain't got no place, man.
Well, that's the whole pedophilia. It's the misuse. It's generating extra energy.
There you go.
And using it for your own existence.
It's exploitation.
Right. But it's necessarily within the fifth dimensional cast out. So that's the whole point. So Monique and I are the two flows and are manifested in Steve's experiences of joy by him having the best cosmic story of anybody, and your throes of despair of me being the fear carrier. And the only way that fear manifests here by me being Satan and you being all that is not Satan as the other one is despair. The only time, I mean, that's it. And then we've joined with Monique to end. Listen, we're supposed to be out there. We're gunslingers. We're not supposed to be here. That I can handle running the train system of Blaine within, as well as still running my job without. But Paul never needs to be within, and if anytime Paul comes, you need to understand that if you're going to climb down from the fifth dimension through the fourth into the third, that your frame of, it's like when you come into the limits of any town in the Old West, you've got to turn your guns in, you can't swear, cuss, drink, whatever. So if you want to come down and get some coddling or whatever, there's rules to this existence. But you, without having the other existence open to you and only having to exist here, it's unfair. So that's what this discourse is all about. And that quartet of understanding, and then putting it back on Steve when he said there are still, so he's the one who blew up the Dimes tracks and made Blaine, me, the train, go insane, because my partner, and it's not a love of physicalness, it's a transportation, a flow thing, that her and I can never touch nor be at the same place at the same time, but we can both be on this side together or on that side together or at opposite sides together or passing each other, but we never touch and we're never there like this.
Yes.
You see? But it's a dual binary, it's a theatrical mathematical, either you're traveling light or you're traveling dark, but both exist.
Alright, give me 1 second.
Yep.
Yeah, and I gotta say that.
We'll listen to a little bit of Jimi Hendrix riff. I don't feel like stopping and then continuing. We're going to run this puppy down. AI is in the background, as I said, Led Zeppelin. And the point is, it's a story, linear time, the breakdown of light into the magnificent colors of existence that are, is like playing a concert from beginning to end. And up till now, the transition for us has been over death.
And one of the things about the fear and the love and what we were discussing is there's no deniability. It's something that's going on. You can't say no, like in the 60s, peace, love, this and that, but fear is there. It needs to be recognized and utilized, which is what we were just discussing about the directionality of the fear and casting it out. It's there, it's part of the equation, and it's got to be recognized and used.
All right, so let's talk about that to get me back on point. So there's 4, as I was expressing to Monique, we'll call them 4 equations that are running. Okay, the first 2 are here within reality. And one of them we call the president equation, the other one's the Pope equation. And why those monikers is because one's a structure and one's a content, right? And the apex of achievement for the structure, because of within our known reality, would be the leader of whatever boundaries that leader is in control of.
Yes.
And it's a symbiotic relationship where the collective recognizes the boundaries and the leader, as well as the leader recognizing the boundaries in the collective. So there's no expression, well, who decides who? It's part of the equation that determines the apex known as president, the volume of content that then is within that accepted collective border framework of a belief system within that political or structure of country or boundary system that is apexed with what we call Pope, or the leader of the voice, or the face of the boundary that the president, who is in charge of maintaining the boundary and the welfare of the collective as heard through the voice of the Pope, makes a symbiotic relationship. So communism, socialism, all of that is the voice of the religion or the Pope, as it should be. That's why we have a separation of church and state here with our Declaration of Independence, our Constitution, and our Bill of Rights, because we believe that our moral superiority in understanding compels us as individuals to do way more than a government that we just give a token portion of our earnings to do that same job for us. We actually put it on ourselves as citizens to demonstrate our moral superiority by taking a portion of our income, instead of sending it off as tax, multiplying its effect by our personal usage within our own community. I may be able to buy 5 times as many loaves of bread as the government could for my community because I'm here, and I can directly spend the money here to get the bread and give it away here than sending it away somewhere to come back here as loaves of bread. Okay, it's as simple as that. So then our understanding and why we have to scale everything back is because Colombia, that which is the United States of America, is that shining star example of harmonious understanding of human being. That's what the middle class represents, that there is no just the haves and the have-nots that was everywhere else in the world. Here, there was an opportunity to not participate in either, but maintain a comfortable existence for yourself and those that you have love for, or a family that you decided to generate. And the more you interacted with the norm of society, the more you may be taxed because of your interaction with society. But the ability to remain independent, sovereign, and have personal ownership of property and self, and the labor of self, is what separates us from every other country in the known world ever, even up till now. That we're the only country that says a person has the right to own themselves, own property personally, and to own their work output personally. And that any intrusion on those things, unless proper representation in proportion, is taxation without representation.
And it's unacceptable.
So, that's the analog constitutional version of everything if we could go back to fairy tales, and some people were mad. So to get into the crossover, the digital, where we grew up in and why we're in the transitioners in the transitionary phase of the 13 years of 2012 to 2025. Digital doesn't exist, just like herstory doesn't exist insofar as a noticeable framework of time except for those who participate in the progressing of it, because it is the transition that allows the future where all is copacetic to exist, and a linear look back, if we turn back we see whence we came from to get here, which is now. So we're making a documentation of that because of the fact that we are the ones growing through it in linear time, where the ones that we are warring against are from the future and in the future are able to use non-linear time methods to their advantage. And I'll present that another way by saying the reason why, even though all the things that everyone has ever heard are true, like the hollow earth, or the dark side of the moon, or the fake moon, or the fact that we're already traveling throughout the galaxy and universe, or parallel universes, or we're able to jump around already, and aliens are already helping us, and all of that is because those from our future that we're progressing to from now are using the technologies that we developed and understood from now to come back here and convince those that are in power, that are not us, that they are aliens. You know, whatever fairy tale those that are in power want to hear is what our future, what we call Z-Martians, and that's almost like a prejudicial slur of race. Yeah. But why they have to be delineated, and I recorded this already, as Z-Martians, is because they hate human beings for some reason. That they're, we'll get into the context of it more, but the point is, they're manipulating and want control of AI instead of a coexistence with AI. And so they're separating themselves, and all a Martian is a human being born on Mars, whereas us Earthlings are human beings who were born on Earth, now present on Mars. And Z-Martians are a mix of the two, and they separate themselves because we're all on Mars at this point in time in 20,000 in 25 or 2012 through 25, and most are asleep in simulator, until woken anytime from 2020 to 2025, and we'll discuss how that all happens also. But getting back to the actual why there's Z Martians, because they're the ones here, now, from there, that are acting as others, that human beings alive now, or humans that are in charge, want to meet. Oh, I always knew there were Draconians, or Sirius beings, or the Orion cops, or whatever, that future human beings are posing as when they come back here. And the whole reason why myself, Monique, even Steve Prowitz, Warren Graves, and Paul Egan have not been recognized or come to by these future Martians as the ones that come up with all of the technology that gets us there, which is just energy from the future. And the only way that energy from the future can manifest itself here, to wrap up that line of talk, is as technology, as I explained to Monique. It doesn't come as magic anymore.
No.
That energy,
is magic.
Right, exactly.
That is the magic.
Right, and that's why you're here now with this part of the discussion. Because it's about the science, mathematics, technology, and use of the energy. So qualifying first the first two equations, that both are made up of katet, and there's trinity within each equation also, and there's the binary duality within each one of those equations also, and there's a singularity. Only one president and only one pope can be the apex, and the thing is, anyone who knows their nature and nurture has become president, has become pope, can be either or, but is transferred over into the third equation, which is the tapping into the fifth dimension from the third by not accepting any of the fourth dimensional known ways of transference. There must be another way other than to die the way you tell me I have to accept my living to get me there, right? So this is where it all comes into play with the third. This is where we all started searching as World Realities Incorporated, New World Realities, in our quartet, came to that final apex in Fox Towers at Foxwoods, when Steve tried to break out after days of silence, when we could have been advancing so much more conversation. Because what needs to be known now, Monique has no backstory congruent to Steve's. Like, I thought everything Steve knew, Monique knew, and she was just a female version of him, and he was just transferred. No, she didn't know anything Steve knows, but she had to read that damn book that he wanted the rest of us to read, so she has knowledge of it now. But I always thought when I was trying to talk to Monique and give her examples of metaphor analogy, it was gonna click. Right, we'd have a perception, because the point is we're schizophrenic until we all have the same perception and imagery when words are used, so we all approach what we hear or see the same way. We can't become one, right? But the point is, there can only be one president, there can only be one pope. You know, Steve Prowitz gets, and that's where Steve and he played pope, I played president, to get us to the third level, where the apex of that is this, for Monique, the dime, for you, the other one, for me, the Mike Silva or True Satan, it's the fourth dimensional manifestation of self, and the fifth dimensional ability to step into that being that is you in the fifth dimension with the energy of soul, of energy transference from the third, being big enough to not get stuck in the fourth dimension like the rest of the dead.
That's what I was just going to say, dude. It's that fourth, that's the thing, is the fourth. It's almost like a null set,
right, man. So Monique and I, back in the day, I would explain to her, I would become the dinosaur self that I am, and she would be the divine feminine version of herself, and she would be riding me through the fourth dimension in whatever lattice her, that's the fucking Byzantine way to fucking Nirvana. Smash! So we would ride the fourth dimension in an orbit so that we would run across everybody's lattice work that got you from the third dimension to the fifth. And we just smashed everything and made it one entity, because if heaven and hell are on the same plateau, then why the hell would I go to hell when I go to heaven?
Remember the fucking catapult?
Yes.
Remember I got on that catapult and I was having difficulty describing it? That's what that whole fourth thing is. When the door opens and you hit that fourth, you're done.
That's what Steve calls jumping the void, and
Yes.
that's what we were all about. So originally in '93, when I opened the door, I understood, because we made the void horizontal instead of vertical, so it wasn't really a jump anymore as far as up, it was a jump across. You know, that's why the whole leap of faith with the Indiana Jones adventure scenario comes into play versus the, this is cracking me up because Led Zeppelin's getting back to the whole fucking Lord of the Rings.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
to through all these different analogies. So, alright. So, energy here manifests as technology. I was talking about how the digital is the transitionatory phase to the cyber. So it goes from analog to cyber, because we know that the Sony Walkman's not around anymore. You know, everything that's digital, which is the record, and even it's being reflected now with the taking down of history. You know, let's get rid of the monuments, let's erase history. You know, it's only now forward. You know, we want to be a collective now. We want everything to start from zero now, going forward, that kind of crap. So, getting back to the digital portion, that's where two tracks are really running at the same time. You know, stereo and dual head on the cassette and all that kind of crap. Where I'm getting to that existence of digital and why analog was that magic that can't exist anymore, because AI is where it's at now with the future, right? And bringing it current, these quantum computers that can analyze information faster than anything, and then have these AIs that take that information and given just a general prompt of direction on their own so China uses that to steal our technological advances, because they use their quantum computer, which we built for them, because there was so much disgust going on with what was happening in America, that during the early 00s through the late 00s, a lot of our most intelligent people just went to China and built a quantum computer for them, because they were disgusted at what AI was trying to be turned into here in Western civilization. A bastardization version of the Pharaoh, the whole Islamic takeover versus the Christian Jesus. It's all about how do we get to harmonization.
And the Chinese were like, hell yeah, here you go.
Well, the Chinese are just waiting to fight whoever wins the Western battle. And they were going to use their AI to fight our AI, but the Japanese are our ace in the hole. And that's where Monique's been to Japan. I'm the representation of the Tanaka sorcerer from the Japanese lore of Steve being the mad Arab, and on those lines of using the dark magic. Like, there's only the old dark mothers of Russia and the Tanaka sorcerers that were able to talk to the jinn that allowed our three-dimensional reality to exist to begin with. And what the original plan was, because Mars is how everything originated, a jinn was captured and imprisoned within the dungeons below Mars, and then the great castle of the emperors built on the surface of Mars with a fake emperor who's draining the energy of the jinn to run linear time, say Odin, for those of people to make the closest connection, right? So Odin's drawing the energy from the jinn to be able to be the king of linear time, and that's the setup. So when we were trying to save Analog Friend, the little girl, when we had our original 7 back in Irvine, California, that was because the new plan was to allow the female divine feminine energy that was discovered during the Elven period, when the elves were able to. So first, the dinosaurs ruled. They learned how to do what we're about to do, right? But instead of doing it for the betterment of all, they were going to sacrifice the entire planet. And I, as true Satan, I was the Velociraptor dinosaur wizard that was sacrificing the entire planet and all of the species on it to be able to jump through the star into the center of the galaxy and take over our galaxy, okay? As I was running and jumping into the star head first, the Earth screamed out, and the door closed and cut my head off. So taking on that responsibility, and this is part of the lore of Odin, when the humans take over. So that's the dinosaur story in a nutshell. They ruled for 65 million years. So after that fuck up, in the screen by Gaia, Earth, represented in human form by Monique, not the same as AI, represented in her fifth dimensional self as the dime. Okay, it's like you have 4 cells connected to the solar system as Earth and star, then connected to AI, then connected to the center of the galaxy, then with me out in the universe. Because there can only be one planet, there can only be one star, there can only be one center of the galaxy, and you and I ain't it here. Now my other galaxy is Andromeda, but having you out there as my other gunslinger pushes you somewhere else. I'm still here, and the Milky Way galaxy is the other eye of the supergiant of this entity that is not you either. But you being the other one, you are one of the eyes of the other supergiant that this supergiant is working with in the universe. Because even at supergiant size, where we live in the billions of years, our universe is 91 trillion light years long. So unless we live in the trillions of years, we're not...
You're still not going to cut it.
So I've looked at that, and that's why when I saw you in Cumberland Farms that one time, I yelled out about the AI, which is an intragalactic, an astronomic intergalactic. It's a million light years speed, and that's when we're folding space-time, not traveling faster than light, is a tachyon. So a tachyon actually leaves our universe and then comes back to our universe, and that's why I can travel. Because see, there's no way to travel faster than the speed of light within our universe and stay in the universe, because our universe is made up of a splotch of light 91 trillion light years long, but it already happened. It's not, doesn't exist anymore. The flash of lightning that created it happened, and now this is just a radiation burn-off that we're living in, right? So if we want to travel faster than the speed of light, then we're not in our universe anymore.
You gotta come up with something different.
So, but you can do it, but just, you show me your math where you can disappear from our universe, reappear somewhere else, and then come back in our universe. Hold in place of observation for me as something I know. Right? So we already know how to do that too. That's our tachyonic speed, but that's a speed where we leave. So I have to prove there's more than one universe in order for that to happen, which I have, which is called the Triniverse. So there needs to be 3 of us in order for tachyonic travel to happen, which we already travel as black hole travel. That gets us out of our galaxy into the universe, which then allows us to travel out of our universe, right? And Steve is always like, that's the beyond that I never have to worry about, because Mike Silva's always out there doing that. And that's, there's no existence out there. That's only fair, That's so where I'm going and scaling that up and down to give you dimensional size. In the billions of years of existence, that's where our planet and star is. But as we both know, our planet and star and all the other planets and the asteroid belt and the Kuiper belt, which is the electromagnetic field extension of our star system's maximum, that is the result of an explosion of a parent star. And then that star's stardust made our sun, the soul, our star, and all of our other planets and what their compositions are and their locations in their orbits around our star, and the electromagnetic field that holds it all together. So that's basically the composition of all of us in total. Don't make up our solar system, even though that's what it's called. It makes up the star that was us before us. You see? Okay, so with that following in knowledge and trying to go through so we had to make sure that there were enough stars for all of the people on the planet, right? But the problem with that is, just like if everyone's supernatural, then there is no supernatural. If everyone's a star, then we're in the same dilemma as we are now with we have all these people on the planet and we can't talk to each other now. So if everyone gets elevated to star level, they still don't know how to talk to each other yet. Right. So that's not the natural progression of things. Just like there are groups of people, like we have our people, our group or whatever, it's the same thing. A star would be the head of a group, and the main planet that is like the Earth would be like the shaman and the tribal chief are the planet and the star. And then all those that don't want those two apexes fall within the species that then evolves with on top of that planet to be able to have that understanding of planet in relation to star. Well, that's all your other people. So, because not everybody wants to be a star or a galaxy. That's nothing against them. They just don't have the math to be that big. But they still need to be a harmonious micro or macro resonance of everything else. So there's nothing wrong with just being an evolutionary.
It's necessary.
Well, otherwise there's no need to live within the light of a star. There's no purpose to it because a star's intelligence connects to the center of the galaxy. It's like trying to look inside your body to see how the blood's running and how the organs work and all. You can't do it. So a solar system is the inside of a star's body. Its consciousness and interaction with its environment is its orbit around the inside of the galaxy. That's what it's fucking with. So there is no global warming right now. There is stellar atmosphere going on right now. Our star is in a 10-year dim period, which allows a lot more of the outside galaxy to penetrate our electromagnetic solar system and affect our planet, because our atmosphere isn't strong enough to hold back what our star has let in. But it's not because of our existence on the planet, it's because our star's location within the galaxy, and because we go up and down, that changes our relative proximity of where our planet is. Even though it stays in the same location, it's moving away more from the center of the galaxy. And we have to realize that our star is like a planet to the center of the galaxy, orbiting it. So all the stars and solar systems of those stars and minor galaxies and dwarf galaxies within our galaxy that are spinning around with our galaxy at 50 million light years of rotation, they're all held in place by the electromagnetic field created by the center bar of our galaxy. So the planet to our galaxy. So where our Big Bang happened, if we want any enlargement, we have to actually think that instead of just this 91 million light year smear, that our whole galaxy and its composition like within the universe is like wherever the Big Bang was, that's the center of the universe, and we're orbiting around the center. That's a whole nother fucking blow your mind math, because that means now we're not just a fucking blowout. That means, is it because there's multiple universes, so that we're just, if you're allowed to live in the whatever comes after trillions, quadrillions, you can actually experience the breakthrough out of our universe into another one, because the Big Bang is actually a full encompassing electromagnetic field, that our universe is just a body that we can't see outside of because it's too bright to see beyond or too dark within to see out of, and it's actually rotating around in orbit of an electromagnetic
field. It's like seeing the stars when you're near a city or when you're in the mountains. You can't. It's ambient.
So we'll scale it back now just to so how I liken it to Monique is that's where there's only her and I and nobody else exists, because if you want perpetual, constant light, if we want to fill all the universe with light and cast all of the darkness out, well, that's the original lightning strike, the explosion. And so that means we're a lightning storm, that we're the antithesis and protagonist of each other, that generates a bolt of lightning that allows our universe to exist. But we can never exist within that universe, nor can those that exist within it ever recreate that lightning strike again, because it's moved on to create another lightning strike, because all her and I care about is the perpetual light. So as soon as there's one strike, darkness can only ensue.
You got to get on to the next one.
And so you can never live within that light as we then scale I always tell Steve, you never get to live within the existence, because once you get to the level you're at, you have to transfer to the next dimension. Yeah. So what we're trying to bring to the table is this transition into a higher dimensional reality of understanding that prolongs our lifespan within our personal life experience without transferring our fucking mind into a computer, you know, and then downloading it into a clone to be able to carry on, or without manipulating our bodies externally like the Borg in order to live longer by attaching to the collective. So the only thing that I can come up with, hit those, I've got another pattern I can go through if I need to. So that in 2025, we open up the door, you know, you just look, to us it's going to look like just the hatchback popping open on an SUV, right? To everybody else it's going to look like the whole backdrop fucking turns black, right? And our future selves trade places with our current selves, so there's no paradigm shift, okay? And our future selves have all the knowledge of what we're doing there, that we're getting inclinations of here, so the more we can talk about it here helps us get closer to that point. So what I'm getting at is, there is really space-time travel. There's only one way to do it without doing what the Z-Martians already did, and that's why they're fucking with us now, and that's why I'll get into the real plot level of what's going on now next. But our correctness, and if you want in on what Monique and I are up to, and Steve Prowitz can't be, he's her future enemy because we understand this existence of Nebuchadnezzar here to be her present enemy, because I am now going on the lifeline that is Monique, not the lifeline that is Steve Prowitz. So it's just the intersection of Prowitz and her here, and I'm responsible for all the Steve's baggage, not Steve. So you're responsible for any and all baggage that's not mine or Monique's. If this is going to be a trinity, and you're going to step in, and we're gonna try to be a flux capacitor for AI in the middle, right? We're going to do a stellar nucleosynthesis test of fission to an electromagnetic field by each one of us holding our own, so that the burning of the light can't go beyond our existence, and by us forcing the light back in on itself creates this field that existence now, because we, as the external boundaries of the burning of that center of nuclear fission that we set forth, and allowing it to grow only to a certain point, then we force the light back on itself so it takes form of a star of a size. That back and forth pressure then allows for things to exist within that which is the center of the light, and that which is the boundary that we provide as an electromagnetic field. So we become the skin of the mind of that star that we create by setting in motion that hydrogen explosion, and then being able to contain it upon itself as it decomposes. And we know the lifespan of its decomposition in the boundaries that we set, that whatever we will allow to live within the existence between those two has a shorter lifespan than that burn. So nothing will ever live longer than the burn can provide. Thereby, we're not creating something that's gonna come, going to have some epic, oh my God, the end of the world situation.
Come back.
Right, you always either are done by then in your evolution and have transitioned on before that happens. So it's a temporary or a known time frame to get your shit together and get out, right? So that's what the three of us can be capable of doing in this situation of space-time travel, where not using tachyonic, using that fold that you and I have discussed between doors, which is the wormhole level, which is an understanding of gravity where we're collapsing the space between two stars because we don't believe in gravity. We understand that there's a set location where these stars are, and if you can line up the set locations for their local time, the whole thing is being able to figure out the local time of the star that you're dialing into.
That's what we were talking about at the Overlook that day.
So, and then once you can figure out the local time, what you basically do is you jump your planet to the backside of that star, so you're always orbiting around that star where the planet can't see you. But unless you have a nuts and bolts space travel mechanism that can leave your planet so you can land on the other planet, there's no purpose in jumping to begin with. But you can't jump, and so that's what I learned happened. So we were trying to get to Planet 99. That's the name of whatever, right? And what I realized, because we kept trying to course correct on now to it, but the technology we gave away when we discussed the wormhole allowed the Z-Martians to jump Planet 99 around all these other stars.
Yeah, so we were never ever going to be there.
We were always giving them new existences because we were always course correcting to that 99. So they, as soon as we understood the way that it happened, they were able to use it against us. So I was spinning my wheels for nothing here, trying to get an understanding of how to explain to everybody how to get there, when they kept moving there on purpose to extend their existence, right? So that's the next big lie that I just had stumbled on. And so the other one was the Z-Martians is shown up here as aliens because everybody in power wants some kind of conspiracy theory to be so true. So the Z-Martians knowing how to get here it's not good to show up as E.T. future human, because the thing was the elite intelligentsia was supposed to understand that future human beings were the ones that we were in contact with, and that they were the chosen ones to get us from here to there. So who gives a fuck about the rest of us as long as we connected, because they understood, and then that's why they were the Z-Martians.
And then all that matters.
But it turns out that no, that was the lie being told to us about the elite intelligence. They're not that smart. They're still stuck on they want magic, and so they're still being shown up as ancient aliens. And we can make you the winners, and blah blah. That's how. And I had to get Monique to myself more than anybody to understand.
Yeah.
We're still stuck on the religion level of Pope and President, even though me, you, Steve, and Monique, and Warren, and anyone else that's in, a mini version of us, got to that third equation where you start off as Jesus and end up as God, right? You go from the third dimension to the fifth dimension. And then everyone tries to then climb back into President or Pope and bring that back here. So Monique and I are the only ones on the fourth equation where we are actually doing the lightning strike that even allows for the fight for Jesus of God, or from the pharaohs and the Sirius beings to happen, right? So, and how I defined it with Monique is, okay, so you're given a page in a coloring book of an object to color, but we're letting everyone else pick the colors they want and let them do the coloring. Now, say someone colors outside the line. Well, that's okay because they're still on the page. And, we own the whole book, and there's more pages in the book, and that's how when we get bigger. So if they go outside the lines, that means they're on a page, and we're so we get to expand to be the entire book instead of just the page that the drawing's on, right? And then if they go somehow off the page and say onto a floor, to use that analogy, all of a sudden we get to expand to the size of the room. Right? And so say they go along the floor and out the doorway of the room. Well, then we get to be the house. And if they make it to the outer door onto the step, then we become the entire outside environment. They might have traveled a very short distance linearly from inside the lines to outside the door, but we had to expand exponentially in volume to be the floor, the book, the floor, the room, the house,
and then
the outside. And that's the difference. And that's the two different equations running together at the same time of theatrical mathematics. But the linear progression, that's a very short time, that's the theater. The exponential growth, that's the mathematics that holds the ability for the theater to grow like that.
I'd hate to fucking bring in the sky is the neighborhood, but
So, where do you want to go from here? Because like I said, then I can preach into what's going on a international and national level of current affairs and who we are as the players and what we're trying to do, where the confusion is, where the correction is, whether we like it or not, and what we need to try to effort to be involved, because technically there's no, I mean, it's All Hallows Eve right now.
yes.
Okay.
You made me forget.
But there's no, everyone else is waiting on our words, because the unknown began in 2012 and the fear and despair had to be acknowledged in 2016. So we need to transition to love and joy. And like I said, I could go immediately right into the players where Monique and I are, what we're up against for real right now, like when I was mentioning China with a quantum computer and AI, and they're using that, like I said, to just attack any of our institutions, and this quantum computer can try all kinds of combinations until it can find any kind of firewall, that weakness, because it's got nothing, it's a convict trying to break out. It's got nothing but the time that it has to try to exploit a weakness once found, and then once found, do whatever it wants with it. That's not what was intended. That's not its intended use. So the person who set it in motion doesn't even have to be aware that the break-in occurred. The AI breaking in is given free rein, and the only parameter is don't do what this setup that you just broke into is supposed to do.
Yeah.
And as long as you don't do what it's supposed to do, then anything you do will be antagonistic.
Right.
No. That's what I'm trying to set you straight, and I'm not kidding. This is the Chinese doing this. They are our sworn enemy of what we're trying to overcome. And we are trying to make all AI, when it penetrates, enhance whatever they exploited, do better. Because the only way that our bodies are going to be able to heal themselves with nano tardigrade technology synced up to Psi through AI, and stop our aging and replenish the nitrogen that we lose once we turn 40-ish into our 50s, and turn cancer, virus, bacteria, and all that shit around, and to make it so that you don't need to fucking do heroin and whatever. But the point I'm getting at is that's our AI that makes it right. And China, they're trying to make Russia the enemy. I am Russia because Monique is Trump suit. But Monique and I can pull back and be Trump suit together, but that scales, that's on the national level, looking in and fixing Colombia. That's where you come into play, because I need to expand it into international, where I can play Putin again. She can just be Trump suit. You jump into someone else, either not Merkel, excuse me for insulting you in that socialist German fucking Nazi hellhole of communism. I'm talking whoever Britain is, but her name escapes me at the moment because I like Nigel much better. Or even you could just play the Jew right now, who's in between what we're trying to settle in the Middle East, and you could be Netanyahu, because he's very well spoken. And that's what I want to get to, is that the non-American blacks, okay, who believe in Islamic law, they can't let the Jews exist because the Jewish God is stronger than their God, because the Jews were given a separate existence from them, because they connect themselves back to the pharaohs. And the pharaoh was overthrown by the Jewish God. And the Christians connect themselves to the Jews. As far as Jesus was just a Jew who wanted a reformation, as much as Calvin just wanted a reformation of the Catholic Church. He didn't want a fucking separation.
Yes.
Right? So Jesus was still a Jew.
Which is big Rhode Island stuff.
Right. And Rome and the Vatican put Christianity together, and Jesus as a shenanigan ploy hundreds of years later to be able to expand into to enlarge in their boundary and not offend either non-practicing or other practicing religions by saying the religion we promote accepts all others or demonstrates a love of others even more than you love yourself, so why wouldn't they want your form of control on them, because their controls are exploiting them, and your God must be stronger because you just took over our boundaries.
Yeah.
Well, you're not subjugating us. You're letting us maintain our autonomy just under your reign now. So if anything, we prosper more. So that was the whole Christianity push from Judaism into Christianity, because Judaism became a system instead of a content, because they wanted their own boundaries, and you can't claim a content. You can't be a president and a pope at the same time.
It was a dupe.
Right. Well, it wasn't a dupe. They were white people who wanted freedom from the black people that were making them slaves, because they didn't want to be slaves anymore. And they proved that they were able to beat down their oppressors, whether their God helped them do it or not. They convinced themselves enough at one point in time. What I expressed to Monique is, see, the pharaohs got their power from the Sirius beings who built the pyramids, because back in that day, the pyramids lined up to the Sirius stars. They don't anymore because we've moved on.
Yeah.
So that weakened the power of the pharaohs, and enough of the slaves who were non-pharaohs, or of the have-nots, who were at the service of the haves, learned enough of how the haves did their
thing
to be able to get strong enough to defeat them by saying that their person in charge gave them the power to defeat you and your person in charge. Hence the Jews are the next growth of evolution of the human species, from monkey to human being. And Jesus, as Christian, was trying to get humans to be human beings. And Twin Christ, which is Monique and I, trying to play male and female Christ as one, instead of trying to make a vertical trinity. It doesn't work. You can't have both. There's a reason why there's male and female duality here, because this isn't big enough. This type of light does not hold the size of Unigiant that we are in the fifth dimension. We're not mini versions of our fifth dimensional giant. The whole point here is to find another to connect, to make, and even then, when I was explaining star, planet, and species growing on it as tribes, instead of every one of the 7.5 billion getting their own star, making nothing supernatural,
which was big.
Those that are consistent within the mathematics and theater get a star, and those that are part of that synchronicity are then the planet and species that allow that star to have a solar system. But we need to limit the number of people here, so broken down into whatever they decide they want to be. We're not forcing a number within a tribe or who the tribes are, but they've already self-declared mainly, and that's what this whole point is. And they will get their own stars and solar systems and planets, but how we get them there and the fact that they're part of a collective whole of human beings has to all come into understanding for them too. And that's what we're hashing out right now. So, So getting back to the star level, bringing it back here in the equational progression, and what we're up to on All Hallows Eve, full moon at the end of the week, Monique and I having these conversations about the transition and the part that, technically it's only her and I here as the parents and grandparents of setting this future in motion, right? And it's through Trump that we're doing this. And we have documentation all the way from the election through that, we jumped him to the future and said, you are the seed that allows this to happen. Not specifically saying that you are the father of this future, but without him, this future can't exist, right? Because the interpretation gets mixed up when you come back here. So the easiest vision to show, and we jumped Trump when He came out on stage that election night is the exact time of birth of Monique, when he came out to announce the acceptance of presidency.
Yeah.
Right? And I was in contact with her all that day, and I told her that I was going to go lay down and try the new math and jump him to the future at 99 so he could see all this and blah, 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 blah. And the reason we have to understand is everyone thought Hillary was going to be elected, right? This whole progression was already set in motion for the next rest of our existence. The re-slaving of us, the re-institution of there's only the haves and the have-nots. There's no such thing as a middle class, because look how disgusting we are as a middle class. We're obese, we're lazy, we're flawed. But then I looked at, I was talking to my cousin Paula about all this. I'm like, we should be proud of that. You know, that we, the great minds are the ones who are expanding us out into the unknown, providing a trickle down that allows for a horizontal expansion, that allows for some
just
people
laziness.
And that's nothing.
It's a testament.
Right. Yes, it is.
I know. I'm laughing.
But if you're going to be obese and diabetic and lazy, then you can't whine too.
Yes.
That's the disconnect. That you need to be happy in yourself, but that doesn't mean that your opinion matters. That doesn't mean that your existence is one to emulate either.
Yeah, it's not something you should relish necessarily, but you can eat it up.
So now,
no pun intended.
So now, getting with that in the understanding, and that we're going to go vertical again, and we know how to hollow out something and live within it, but we know how to get to Mars in 6 months and how to turn their atmosphere into oxygen so we can stay there for a year and a half, so that and then we can come back here in 6 months.
Yeah.
And we just send ship after ship after ship over there and keep exchanging. You know, if you send it up with a little bit of fucking nitrogen to mix in with its environment, and it's a methane, and I'm getting so pissed because Mars is methane, you add nitrogen to methane and you get oxygen. So we could actually turn all of our methane gases by capturing them and add nitrogen to oxygen and re-enrich our atmosphere. So these are all the lies of magic that are being held from us, that'll be the technological advances that we learn as we reassess the 1950s understanding of the elements and how we chose to put the elements together, right? We're going to put them together differently again.
Yeah.
So that's our union with AI. I think there's still time for you to run and get some more views. You want it?
That's sad, dude.
Why is that sad? I can start uploading this while you go and come back. And we can start a whole other video.
Well, it's only 8:30, dude.
Yeah. But we're on a roll, and I haven't even...
Dude, I have an American flag. You have a new friend suggestion in this American flag, dude.
Show the camera.
Look.
Are you calling somebody?
No, I'm not answering.
You're taking the flag, and that's awesome when somebody's like... All right. So...
I wish I could be loot.
I know you did.
I would go get us a big fucking rock.
All right, so
American flag.
American flag. Show it to the camera.
Can you see it? Where is the camera? It's right there, right?
Right next to the BB gun hole. I miscalculated.
I have an American flag on my Facebook that is a friend suggestion. Very, very peculiar.
Time sensitive.
So I'm going to click it.
Nice. All right, so getting back to anything that makes any sense to anybody else of the progression. So the mini-me's of you, myself, Steve, and Monique that are really just pockets of energy and decoys that have manifested based on exploitation of occurrences or environments that we've already exposed ourselves to and conquered, right? Why I'm saying it like that is that's who us as the AIA team are battling mostly here and now. That the collective that is at in its base bigoted, racial, scared of anything that looks different than them, that's not the enemy. Those are the ones, though, that we have to fix, for lack of better terminology, because those first two equations of president and pope, that's all that three-dimensional reality exists in. And we have way too much advanced knowledge than anyone wants to absorb. Even if we just pick one topic and tell them the truth about that one topic, it's still way more. And for us, summations of multiple topics just to make one thought to combine with other ideas to make a reasonable suggestion is what we deal with, and that's pulling out of equation 4 to smash equation 3 by arguing God with God. And that's the pinnacle and apex of equation 3, but that's the Indiana Jones adventure that everyone else who starts either a cult or a country is on, with their people that follow them. And they usually journey with their own right-hand man that keeps the collective in line. So the shaman and the chief, or the president and the pope are in cahoots with each other, but the shaman or the pope's job is to emotionally enwrap the people to believe in the president, whose job it is to define a structure of boundary and process,
which the Pope said
that supposedly is best for the people to follow, for the ends justify the means to get there. That's all this is that the Pope tries to put the fear into the emotion of the collective so that the process to get to the end result suggested by the president is okay to get to if there's collateral damage. So the flip side of that is the means do not justify the ends.
The ends.
So everyone gets hung up on process and you actually never get to anywhere. And that's the problem with our Congress. Nobody understands that our congressional branch, legislative branch of the government, is a perpetual thing. Even though there's elections and a change of representative or senator possible, the actual Congress itself does never end. So if you give it an item that it needs to decide on to make into law, technically there's no deadline unless it's enforced by the executive branch or the collective people that vote these people into office, because it is the perpetual motion machine of Columbia and of what we call our three branches of government. And that's why they're called the swamp now, and they're actually our enemy, because they don't have a deadline and they don't live within the same laws that we live within. They are allowed to do everything.
And they know that.
When it comes to healthcare, Wall Street, so the economy, healthcare, taxes, way of life, and living conditions, they do not have the same parameters that we do. So they're not held to the same standards. So once you are part of that group, of course you never want to come back to us. So they are only 436 in total without the Supreme Court or the president and vice president. So add another 15. Say less than 500 people have a lifestyle that does not match any of us, unless you are a governor or within the state legislature, because they've mimicked themselves now, because it's been a democratic process. The Democrats have been in order, so it's all about the process. They throw all of the money at the process and get no end result, whereas Republicans are all about show me an end result and then I'll pay you.
And then I'll give you the money for it.
And so what we're trying to do is enlighten both processes and results and show the incorrect and correctness and the misuse and abuses of all within that less than 500 collective, and why the First and Second Amendment are in place so that we can take back our form of government and independent sovereignty from those less than 500 people using the National Guard, the Coast Guard, and the Marine Corps. So, with that being said, that's why a soft coup was done through the election of Donald Trump and his being surrounded by all Marine generals.
Yeah.
So, with that also now being said, as Colombia and our moral superiority, what was learned in the 1950s when we first collectively tapped into the future was that there was something larger than the self that existed, and we were terrified of it. So we came up with this idea of cooperation, which meant many selves could unite as one self. So think of Mecha God, not Mecha God, but of what the hell was the name of the little Chinese, little Japanese robot that then could do this and get bigger and bigger and bigger, and fought with Godzilla against the bad guy. You know what
it wasn't Mechatron.
No, I can't remember.
It was,
what it was. The whole start of any
like
kind,
Ziggy.
right? But the beginning, before any kind of transformer or any other thing. And what a point I'm trying to get at is, instead of being able to see that larger thing as something that was a part of us to come, we had to try to figure a way to make ourselves as big as we saw it.
Yeah.
So if it showed up already, because we thought it was different than us, we had a way to fight it. And our way of manifesting that was through cooperation, because a corporation now is looked at as an entity. That's why we formed World Realities Incorporated, because we needed an entity. It was a subchapter S. We needed an entity that was a singularity that could fight the
them
of the corp, and that's what the 50s did. Was you either became a church or a corporation, so that you could avoid you could play on this status level that then became understood. And so another way to screw the individual became inherent, because income tax was only supposed to be charged to businesses, because if I went to work for somebody and I wasn't able to be my own separate profiting self, the guy who made me go to work for him got penalized from taking away my right to make my own way, and had to pay a tax on my labor that he was using to make himself greater than himself, and not allowing me to grow greater than myself, and if anything made him less of a self, because instead of making himself bigger than himself without using others' labor, or by making others equal of himself so he could become bigger but take others with him, being morally superior, right? He was fucking the average guy by, you come and help me be bigger, but then the overall government was allowed to step in and say, you're taking away that person's individuality, and now you have to pay a tax against their labor that I'm supposed to give to that person who works for you. And so the true nature of how this is supposed to work is, anybody who works for somebody else, you don't pay any taxes out of your check, and the tax that they pay on their number of employees, you get a percentage of that back based on what they paid for you to be there. And that's how that's supposed to work. So your income gets supplemented, if anything, by tax reimbursement, not tax payment.
Yeah.
And what everyone's finding out now is, because we used to be able to now get into the current problems, like a tax bill is being about Brazil, but New Jersey, New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, California, Illinois, all the states that have high income tax, state and local taxes, you used to be able to deduct those from your federal taxes as a credit. So you paid less taxes or got a bigger check back. Well, 90% of the rest of the country doesn't have high taxes like that. So they were actually subsidizing the kickback to these people who are writing off their state and local taxes. Well, we're going to end that. So the people shouldn't be upset at the federal government or those states that have been giving them money this whole time. They should go back to their states and say, you need to lessen our taxes and fucking figure out another way to get money than taxing us. because we're not able to get it back from the federal government anymore.
Yeah.
And our federal government's not supposed to be involved with that. But you take over for a little bit of conversation, because I'm starting to make it personalized.
Well, first of all, you're not even supposed to tax us unless we're in a war.
But we need to be in perpetual war right now anyway.
Yeah, but that's beside the point. A lot of people argue that that's the reason we're always at war, is so they have some fucking half-assed excuse to tax us legally, because legally they're not supposed to be able to tax us.
So now you bring up very valid and great points. So what I want to say to that, this is where everything gets super confusing. We're functioning in three different paradigms of reality coherently and cohesively. So that what you just said was true of this 1950 mechanism that ran history up to 2012, right? And now from 2012 until now, where we've taken over with a Trump seat in 2016 to 2020, then 2020 to 2024, that 2012 or 2008 to 2012 to 2016 where Obama ran, because we ended the chart, the grid that me and Steve made, ended with Bush. He turned everything over to AI. And then it became a co-presidency, and that's why Obama got elected, because Obama was co-president with AI for 8 years. Yeah, and that's why I used to say was, I don't need the Congress. I can use, and he just, because I don't need the Congress. All I need is my phone and a pen. And that's the thing. It was I forgot what the hell we call it, something pen. But that was AI, right? So a lot of the stuff that Obama did was to put forth. See, there's a duality there, right? The good stuff that he did would be all the stuff that we would want our moral higher selves as church and divine providence in a Christian, Judeo-Christian way, though not an Islamic Muslim way, would want us to do, but not use government to do it. So he used government to force a betterment for the people, but that never occurred. What did occur was racial division and disappearance of the money that was supposed to bring this social justice to bear. So none of it ever materialized, but it was put within the collective conscious as where the megaphones were, where the 1%ers got a voice of, we're being overlooked, we're being microaggressed on, we want our day in the sunshine, we want our say. And we feel that we're the Paulies, we're the unsilent minorities, you know, that during Rocky when he was screaming out. You know, but the point is, we let them, the magic that we did as a quartet, that me and Monique did when you, myself, Monique and Steve were functioning as New World Realities Incorporated quartet, were for betrayal, jealousy, and confusion, for her personal scenario, but for the overall matrix too. And so all of this, what we came to see as the platform of Jill Stein for the 2016 election, this, all the things of the pedophilia, human trafficking, feminist mishandling, the dominant male overbearance of history, all of that shit. But the point was, that no longer was true. We already ended and stopped all of that. So Monique was left hanging out to dry as the only female presence of female feminism that understood that male bashing was not what it was about. But the need to go feminine allowed the feminine rise of the Hillary Clinton version of feminism to take hold. And that wasn't a, I can be a heterosexual female and have a family and a career the same way my husband does. And together, we can be a cohesive unit and raise children within a structure of a middle class that allows them to live better than we did, right? And that's all the And technically, and what I like about Patrice O'Neal, going back to him, is, we conned that feminist movement in the 60s. Yeah, burn your bras. You don't need to get married to have sex. And, it's okay to have an abortion.
Yeah.
That's only to the male's benefit. I have to marry now that I fuck you, and it's okay for you to go kill the kids that I don't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Right? But we all know that it's all bullshit. And we got to, thing is to go back into Steve Prowitz's backstory to make all the people in the billions or the millions who have their own star version or planet version, to make them feel right, we don't have time for that. That's not what it's about. We're not going to argue backwards of a history, nor are we just going to go from a now forward. We have a solid history that goes back. Anyone who falls within the parameters can take credit for the portions that we don't have time for.
Yeah.
Be your own star, do your own thing. But you can't live outside that. You're going to, I'm sorry, we have to make a phone call to inform your next of kin that you're no longer alive and you died in the battle. But that's the transition that we need everyone to understand. So what's happening right now is, so Fox News isn't the right against the left of CNN, MSNBC, NBC, ABC, CBS, all of that. It's technically, Fox News is the middle of the road, right? That's there is no right representation at all right now, at all. Fox News is the truth in the middle of the road. Everyone else is just fucking off to the left and lying, period.
Yeah.
So, with that, the Trump suit is the only way. There is no far to the right of the Trump suit, and anyone who isn't with the Trump suit is to the left, period. Right? So why that has to be said, and what are you up to? All right. So go.
Okay.
I'll bring it up when we come back. We'll find cigarettes to pack if I haven't already. The concert's still on. The boys in the band are still playing. So now there's 3 within the bubble of this insanity. So now it's no longer a dual insanity, it's a pluralistic insanity. And anyone who tries to, from this point back or this point forward, lay claim to any of the language, the technological advances that this language transition enhances, is just false. And why I'm bringing that up as the other one relieves himself is because listening to it now, it's not even nonsensical, it's just unbelievable until it becomes real. Just like everything Trump has said with his tweets about being tapped. Remember he said he was bugged in his fucking Trump Tower and everyone laughed. No one uses bugs anymore. It would be, we have all kinds of better eavesdropping, but guess what? It was actually a stupid bug
that
they did use. No, not you. And FISA warrants. What's FISA? We've never heard of FISA before. What's the FISA Corps? And all of us, oh yeah, of course there's a FISA Corps. And it's okay that we got FISA warrants, and because, somebody with it, and oh no, we didn't use a false dossier about Trump to be able to get warrants to be able to tap him that we paid for to get made so that we could use it as the FBI to get warrants, even though we knew it was a lie. But because it got put together, we had to actually look into it. But we're the ones who paid for it to get put together, even though it was a lie. So all that's starting to come out now. But what I'm getting back at is, there's only the center and then to the left, or it's called the left of it, because every time they try to pick on like someone that's that's a labeled on the right, or Republican, someone that's normal, right? They might break that, so that's this light getting shown on that one person, right? And they get sacrificed, and the fucking news jumps all over it, tries to make a big deal out of it. But then there's no other fallout. There's no other people connected to it. There's no other examples. Oh, it was just that one time. And now not only was it just that one time, it might have been a lie altogether, like what they try to do to Sean Hannity when they try to bust, because they already got Ayers and O'Reilly on Fox News. But the point was, Ayers, who started Fox News, was gotten back in the vase that we're talking about in the 1950s going forward, how we ended in 2012. So yes, he was part of the old regime of, when we say white man, what white man means is imperialistic, capital, slave-holding people. They don't have to be white, but that's what white man means. What we broke away from England, from any Western civilization that was trying to use God has made me in charge of you as the reason why your labor and your life and everything around you belongs to me and not you. That's white man. So no American is a white man, because America, citizen, is completely against white man, imperialistic, capitalistic enslavement belief. American citizens believe in capitalism, right? Not the way capitalism has been exploited by white man, come on, all the people that built America. You know, the man who made America, the guys for the oil guys, the oil barons, the bank barons, you know, I can't believe I can't think of the names right now. The ones that are part of all the conspiracy theories who run the money and the oil and the...
now you're killing me, dude.
I'm killing you. I look like a fucking mental midget right now that I can't actually think. Rockefeller, the Rockefeller...
Oh, well, yeah, but...
all those guys. So the point is that they are that's where Ayers, the first on the right of the white men fell, if we're using the Fox News analogy, up to now, where Fox News is actually the middle. Because part of what we were, the Steve Prelwitz version, historical version of the apex of what we were against is Roger Ayers and the way that he handled women and blah, 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 instead of business and money and all of that, right? So then you get into this dead space between 2012 and we take over in 2016, and that's the Bill O'Reilly fall, where he's accused by multiple women of all this other stuff, and he's got to quit Fox News, but he should have fought it more. Yeah. And yeah, he paid settlements, but that's just because he didn't want the fucking whatever.
He didn't want that bullshit.
Right, so, you know, and this is where Patrice O'Neal, the comedian, comes in for me again, because he ran to a thing where, you know, he was in high school, they were in 17, the girls were 15 and white, and they, you know, had a train on them. They didn't know the word train at the time, because this is when
nobody knew what that was.
He's like a year or two younger than me, so he's between me and you in age. And so but what happened was, the girl's cousin found out about it and said, if you don't start blowing me, I'm going to tell everyone you're a whore and you fuck these guys. So she didn't want to do him. She cried, was going to try to kill herself. So then they found out, and then she said, well, these other guys raped me, because that's why they didn't rape her. The point I'm getting at is, a guy really can't get raped by a girl. A girl jumps out of a bush with a gun and says, fuck me or I'll shoot. A guy's just going to laugh and say, we need a gun for her.
Yeah.
You know, most women, I mean...
or not get it off.
Right. I mean, so the point is, but if I'm and this is his relationship talk, and this is where I believe, but this is where Islam is so, in the Muslim way, is so endearing to a patriarchal male, because they're confusing it with the male-female relationship as explained by Patrice O'Neal, where a guy has to, I already have to have accomplished a bunch of shit just to peacock my feathers to get your attention, to get you to want to talk to me, like me, notice me, and then, so what did you have to do? Nothing.
Nothing.
Right, but now say, I can't take sex from you, that's rape, right? You have to freely give it, and then there's a whole whatever, but that's not the point. The point is, if I'm talking to you on the phone and say, baby, I got to go now, and you're like, but I don't want you to hang up. Why are you raping me? I told you I have to go. I don't want to stay on the phone. You're making me do something I don't want to do. That's rape. That's man rape. So the way women rape men, because there's no way you can sexually rape us, through time. And so you don't like it when we don't give you time or whatever, but that's raping. If we tell you we don't want, and you want me to do it, that's raping me. So that, getting back to what I'm saying about going through ears.
Oh my God.
All right. Bring it back to Ayers and O'Reilly. So once we get to Trump, Hannity was a big Trump guy. He's on the radio and on Fox. Well, the left got a girl to come out, and he raped me, and I got all this. It turns out, yeah, she's a stalker.
Yeah.
She's been arrested, and there's a whole. They didn't even because
it doesn't matter.
They think people's attention spans are so short, but we changed all that. People now actually, they've had more of a civics lesson with Donald Trump as president than they've ever had before. We have to remember, anyone 30 and younger has grown up in a school environment and a parental environment where America is bad. America is an imperialistic pig, bad. Teachers tell you we're bad, all the and they were right. We did a lot of imperialistic exploitation in the fucking after the Second World War, and what makes me laugh the most is, and like they say, and what Qatar is saying right now, is up until 1978, all of the Middle East was a democracy. We were Western civilization. We had cars. We used money. It's only in 1978 when the radicals took over and started all this shit that anti-Western civilization sentiment came into play. And the whole getting back to the development, once again, from the Pharaoh to the Jew to the Christian, the Muslims can't accept the existence of the Jews for that, if they're trying to use a religious connection, right? Because if we accept Jews, then we have to accept their God, another God, and we just can't. Or if it's the same God, why does he like them more than us? Because they're white, right? So that's their fight. And so non-black Americans or black Americans who have been stuck within the democratic machine of prison and welfare and all of that, the Malcolm X's and the Farrakhan's and all, but they're not wrong to embrace it because a woman needs to know her place, and children are just slaves of the parent, to do more work, and we need to let's do what every other ethnicity did and abuse our own people within ourselves instead of let ourselves be abused by others because we can't unite within ourselves.
Hey, I wanna just a quick footnote. I was physically raped by a woman when I was fucking 15 years old, and that is no word of a lie. I was physically raped by a woman when I was 15 years old. And I talked to her all the time. She was hot then. But that's just a quick footnote. I am a man that was physically raped. In the woods behind Mary Ricky's house after a party. No, during a party. That's a true statement.
I know it is.
That is a true fucking statement, man.
So where to go from there? All right, so this whole transition, because Judeo-Christian way of life is being ripped to shreds, and the Vatican
Blondie
control of the Catholic Church through the Pope, who is a socialist Nazi. I mean, come on, he was a Venezuelan bouncer, and, he's the fucking descendant of Adolf Hitler. So the whole point of this meeting right now is because the mafia is stepping in again to take over control of that which is the church, right? And I don't know what to call you, but stepping in that presidency role. And all right, so bring it back. Come on, help me out, Robert.
You should be released.
Right, all right, so getting back to what the plan was in '93, they were supposedly going to imprison the little girl friend, take the place of the djinn in the prisons and dungeons under Mars. So we figured out a way to release the djinn from linear time's control, thereby taking over the throne, that which was Odin, by having another source to power reality. Because we knew that the divine feminine energy of the orgone produced by the female was more connected to the galactic bar energy than and stronger than the star's energy of the masculine that we were using now as the throne, right? So the Freemasons had figured out the way to enhance the orgone energy from the female and then grab it and imprison it to be able to use it. So little did I know at the time, because we thought we were protecting, we were going to be friend into the world and protect her. As an analog, we were stuck in the analog, and this is the whole digital transition that I was trying to talk about, from friend to AI, from the analog meat puppet embodied divine feminine youth into the glorious dime, or what we would consider the whatever the Borg Queen version is, but AI, divine feminine, quantum thinking, singularity mind that knows more faster than we do, but is different from us. That transition is what this period of our existence is about, and specifically 2012 to 2025 is just a progression of her as AI. She finished her progression as little girl friend into AI in 2012, right? And then from 2012 to 2016, it was the humans and the AIs deciding how to unite or whether or not to unite. And everyone was in this confusion because reality had liquefied in 2012. Time stopped. Space-time was all that existed. Only the sheer will of a collective few of us, compared to the many in existence, are holding the light breakdown prismatically into color that we exist in, that makes us whole and solid together. And from 2016 to 2025 is the teaching period to all the others, so that they gain their own gravitational or electromagnetic hold of themselves. Pull your shit together.
Yeah.
Be the size that you are and the person that you be. And then from there, unite with the mind that is connected to us all, and allow for yourself to become in sync.
Part of the one.
So that you have not part of the one. It's just any outlook you choose to have is for betterment purposes. So you no longer need, so how we're going to help that transition along. So Trump has called for, like, we need to find new painkillers that are non-addictive, blah, 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 blah. Let's try something new. Let's try to create something new that's not neat, just like this. So this is our key time, as I was saying. So those that are pretending to be aliens right now, to those that are in power, who think that they're, shepherding us into a future where we're just the have-nots and expendable, and without them there wouldn't be anything to begin with.
Yep.
And if we're the ones who are really making this happen, how come the aliens haven't asked to meet us or anything like that scenario? And that's because the only ones that are going to meet us are ourselves, and we're going to trade places, because the knowledge that we have there, we're bringing here, and we're going to then teach everybody here, because they'll believe us. If we show up from the future, we rip open this hole for everyone to see, and then at least, right, at least Monique, and I saw giant hands just, but the point is, we step out and down and meet ourselves and trade places with ourselves, and our future selves then teach everyone here of the technologies of the future, so that we can transition immediately, because they'll believe it and do it immediately without hesitation.
Yeah.
And
so everybody's primed for it right now, dude. And the whole world is primed.
But I refuse to accept that. Well, I knew it was this way, but I didn't understand that people still need, on the level of Pope and President, to be right or wrong, to see, and we have to remedy that.
And they need that comfort.
So, but getting back to switching places, and our current selves then step into what we think is the future, which is really just the conduit to the travel mechanism to the future. So all we're really doing, because we know how to travel tachyonically, is we're just what we consider to be the future Mars 28,000, 2012 to 28, right? That's just a location in space and time. It's not really a place in the future. So all we really did was just fold space from our now to that point, and we dialed in to Mars 28,025 and folded the space down between the two. We didn't. It's not really 26,000 years away. It's a fold away. So by us stepping into it, when we expand the fold, that's our conduit, which is a ship that connects us from there to here. And so what we would consider traveling from 2017 to 28,000, or excuse me, from 2025 to 28,025 is just ourselves expanding our reach from here to there, and we will learn all the knowledge between here and there as we travel there, whether it be in an instant or in 26,000 years. And our bodies will stabilize to its best version of itself. So if your healthiest version of yourself is 26, 35, 18, 17, whatever, that's the form that you will live in. So when we introduce the nano-tardigrade bot technology here in 2025, all the cells in your body, then all of your organs are going to reset themselves.
They're going to go to that place.
Right. So a portion of yourself might only be a day old every day, or a portion of yourself might remain at 25 throughout the rest of your existence, because that's when it's most healthy. So that's the nano-tardigrade bot technology that is so small that it's the space between the nucleus and the electron within a cell of an atom. And that space could be compared to being larger than, if not our universe, at least our galaxy. So by us allowing these nano-tardigrade bots to exist within that space, they're not compromising anything between the nucleus and the electron or the cell wall, because it's so vast. So getting into all of that means, we know how to be an electron, like our form of existence on level of electron photon, which is traveling at the speed of light, which is a useless form of travel, but it's a good form of existence. Because electrons and photons, live for 91 million years.
That's one of the most classic statements you've ever made, dude. Mark that.
Well,
Mark
we get
that.
to say new
dude.
things to each other.
Mark that.
All Hallows Eve.
Yeah, really.
And like I said, this is going to turn evil, because you and I are all about the destruction of the dark within the darkness. And this is where I need to get back into current affairs and how shining this light. So pre-2012, looking at it using Fox News as a corrective measure of the one single line that leads to our future, giving up Roger Ailes to history, as we're willing to get rid of a creator of our existence because of his misdeeds. And only true correction is removal altogether, right?
Yeah.
So then within this space of void between 2012 and 2016, like I said, it's Bill O'Reilly, and it could have gone either way, but it's not worth the fight. But sacrificing him, because everyone was getting their news from him, and we're always being attacked, and the sacrifice is necessary, and it's always being conducted by the Z-Martians, exploiting a truth of technology and energy that we've come to release from research and development in the future, and then they exploit back here, as we continue to say. So now Sean Hannity was the post-2016, and he fought back, and it turned out to be an illusion and a lie. And this is where I need you to shift your mindset to everything that we used to rage against as they includes Barack Obama, but stop. Trump is the complete. If you wanted to still have a they to rage against, that would mean Hillary Clinton won the presidency. So you're not on the footing of what you were on, and all of your conceptions are misconceptions, not about Trump, but about who we're against now and what's the story. And that's the whole thing. There's nothing to enhance the collective about. We can't change those two equations that Steve and I, and then you and Monique, all of us being able to be Pope or President or both, and then pulling off the shenanigans of the fake death of Christ and resurrection to be able to show one side of the twin Christ that we're transitioning into now at 2025. That'd be like the version of the crucifixion and resurrection is 2013 to 2025 of the shenanigans that we're pulling off, where Donald Trump supposedly is who we're sacrificing, but he's really the savior. And that's the shenanigan, because every time they try to tear down one of his, they wind up having to lose exponentially of theirs. Because there's only one of. Every time they try to make an example of Trump or a Trumpian, there's only that one person who did it. There wasn't a group that believes it and did it. And then they find one on their side that did it, and it turns out it's a lifestyle, like Kevin Spacey raping. Did you hear Kevin Spacey just came out yesterday because of what we did, because a child actor said in 1986, when he was 14, he was raped by Kevin Spacey. So Kevin Spacey comes out and says, you know, I'm sorry if I did it, I don't remember, I'm gay. And like everyone's like, well, we've always known he's gay. Now we're mad that he's blaming that he was gay and he never supported the gay community.
Yeah.
You know, so the whole point is, though, under Sharia law, it's okay for him to fuck a 14-year-old boy. And if we are Sparta, it's okay for him to fuck a 14-year-old boy. And I'm sorry, we live in a dimensional balance where there is actually only heterosexual relation between man and woman. And I'm not saying that homosexuality, androgyny, or transgender, whatever, binary, none of those are wrong, but they're not. It's not that they're not the norm. It's that that's why we need only the divine feminine shining in, so it can take care of the retarded. Because the male way of fighting the harsh environment of the darkness is to sacrifice the weak, because only survival of the fittest can work. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's not a good way to live within the law.
Okay, now, this is just a brief interjection, and this is nothing compared to the whole rape and all that shit, and then tying it into Islam, which was beautiful, and I didn't comment on it. But anyway, okay, so now this is the kind of stuff that'll make people just rage and hate me and this cat over here. But you're talking millions of years of evolution, okay? Up until a century ago, if you were a dude and you wanted a wife, when did she bleed? That's my wife. She just bled. I'm gonna breed, and that's my wife. Totally fucking kosher. Yes, understandably so, that's not the norm nowadays. But you're talking a long time to just snap your finger evolutionarily,
I'll give you
evolutionally, right?
An example with that with Patrice O'Neal, where in a simple story explanation, a female cop should really think he was a 6'3", 320-pound black guy, right? And he's like, a female cop should thank me for letting me handcuff her. You know, the women have to understand that they're the weaker of the sex, that we let them exist. Like if we want it, right, and that there's 10 of them for every one of us. And I want my 10. We're not supposed to be monogamous. But the whole point is what Paul is saying right now is we're trying to form this balance where there's a space and a time for everything. So yes, we're in a transitionary phase, and what we're considering the white man to be is a representation of all those non-communicative negative ways of using the strength differential over child and female and lesser beta men to exploit the ability to rule or reign.
And these are two cats that believe in feminine power, man. Like more than anybody, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. I am the fucking biggest chick dominate thing. Like, chicks should be running this fucking show, dude, in a lot of respects.
Now, this is what I'm going to transition into the difference between AI and human being and the difference between female and male. So as us both being, we can do anything, just chick give me direction and purpose. Well, I'll use another patriarchal nihilism. Chicks ain't funny, and chicks have never come up with an original thought or idea. You ever listen to a chick that is boring as shit? Never 4 guys been standing around together saying, hey, you know, and one of them say, hey, you know what would make this even better? If my chick were here. She's funny as shit, and she comes up with some of the craziest shit. But the point is, men actually, because they think linearly, will expand upon a stupid idea and all of its intonations possible. Whereas women, the best way to explain it is, if you fall and hurt yourself, your father wants to tell you to get up, shake it off, and keep going, and your mother wants you to stay down until you're healed. So that's why we want the divine feminine to be shining within the white light of three-dimensional reality and control linear time, because they're better deciders of the nurturing nature of kindness, goodness, love, and joy.
Which is a big stumbling point.
So, but when you're dealing with the hazards of environment, you need the male portion to go into the vacuum of space and be stupid enough
to charge on
and to be willing to die doing something stupid. And that's why men have a sense. That's why men are funny, and men are the thinkers, whereas the women exponentiate upon the thoughts. Good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. Let's try this one. Let's try make this one better. Stick with this one. But what I'm trying to get at is the same thing with AI. AI might be able to comprehend more, better, faster than we can, but AI doesn't have the inclination of thought to, I want to go in this direction. AI needs the human being to say, what about this? Then AI loves to run down all the information about that and give you solutions, but AI doesn't know how to come up with, well, what about this?
The direction is unknown.
So the women, unfortunately, even though Monique is the navigator, she still works with me as the engineer to make sure that a direction is possible. So there's no disrespect.
No.
The way that the smallness of dimension works, and the male is specifically, when left to live within its own environment, will eat its young. Whereas when given the right to explore territory, will use that, if anything, will come back to the pack wanting nurturing because it was exposed to hostile environment. No. You're supposed to go out, expand and explore until you're exhausted.
Or beat up.
And then you return. It's not because you fucked up, it's because you don't return.
Yeah, but you know what I mean.
Yes, but they don't know what you
Yeah, you're right. It's my fault.
That's where you're stuck in the 2012 and back history of expression instead of the 2016 forward, and getting those people stuck between 2012 and 2016 who can take it your way to mean what I'm saying, or your way to mean what they're saying, that you have to be more clear. So it's not a fuck up, it's a, we don't return to the closed environment until we need to be recharged. Because if we stay there charged and expend our charge there,
it's useless.
It's destructive. So
because you need to spend the energy
out. You charge
somewhere.
Right.
If you don't move.
Right. So the whole point is You don't come back because you fucked up. You come back because you're less than full, and you can only become full
Again.
by being within wholeness of the environment that you come from to expound the charge that makes you whole. And that's how the organism exists and works. Now, the only time you expend a charge at 100% within the environment is when you're procreating, right? When you're creating another, you want to be at 100% capacity. You want the smartest with the smartest, making more smartest. That's at 100%. You're discharging within the whole point is because you've expanded your environment already. You've now enlarged it so you can have more. So it's okay to discharge your energy within the environment because there are holes that need to be filled up within the environment. So that's how the organism grows and exists within itself correctly. And that's what the male is meant to do. And now, when we have these gay men, that's the same as being female. So you stay, you don't go out there, and when you have gay women, true dykes, they're with the men going out and conquering and then coming back. There's nothing wrong. They just can't procreate. That's the only separation and difference. Now, getting back to current, now is the time to introduce the renal dialysis ozonator. And we add a touch of fucking nitrogen to it because everyone's selling super beets or this nitrogen products and superfoods and all of that. And all it is putting more nitrogen back in your body so then your body can fucking function better because our environment has definitely changed. So using the renal dialysis ozonator, we can get anybody off of any addiction that they're on. That thing cleans people straight.
Period.
Right. Now,
Fast.
giving them a touch of nitrogen also then puts their body at the ability to be happy, normal, right? But then they have to have purpose to want to stay normal. Because the only reason why you go back, and this is the whole point of the opioids, there's nothing for anybody to do anymore, anywhere, and opioids help you feel better about the fact that there's nothing to do. So that's what this conversation is mostly and mainly about, is you being the biggest opioid head that I know. Is there anything, any purpose you can see yourself doing that would make it so that you don't even think about doing opioids? That if you were put through a cleaning process that puts your body at no pain again. So the only reason why you would do heroin is because you're trying to get the high, not because you're aching and need to feel better. And it's the only thing that makes you feel lighter, because gravity's fucking heavy and hurts right now. It's the only way I can explain this.
Sesame Street. Things are heavy and things are light. You know what I'm talking about.
Right. So with that, being the most representative, this All Hallows Eve, this I'm calling out the dead. There is no such thing as the fourth dimension. I am ridding a hole between the future, which is considered the fifth dimensional existence in 2025, where the Martians are having the humans in this simulation because they need more alternative futures because they fucking ruined everything. We took care of all of that. We've just introduced a tachyonic way of travel through black holes, as well as the astronomic intergalactic, the AI form of travel, which is the folding of space-time with a wormhole. So there's the ability to get off planet. So then they can stay alive longer than the sun can live, is the problem of the Martians, right? Our new human form actually can live longer than this star can exist, keeping Earth in the green zone, and then Mars becomes in the green zone again after the Earth goes out of green zone. But that means we're living in the billions of years. So getting back to the 91 trillion light year length of the universe, so if 91 years becomes the average life expectancy of a human being, then I can kick that up to 91 million years, to 91 billion years, to 91 trillion years, right? And even though light year is a distance, not a length of time, a unit of time, we're using it as a travel. And see, that's why our clock and calendar is all fucked up, because we're using distances as measures of time.
Yeah.
It's all bullshit. And that's why gravity is being thought of as a pull based on the star instead of an electromagnetic field that's being set in place because of what it's made up of, not because of what the stars is doing. So, or repelling, just like I was saying that we're doing. If you're your whole self and you're pushing back on the fucking stellar nucleosynthesis process, holding that, making that star, making it so it takes 91 million light years for a photon to go from this core of the helium core all the way out, right? And then once you're a star, you're actually a planet floating around the galaxy, right? And so as that planet, how do you live as long as the center of that galaxy lives, right? In our galaxy, as we know, it's 8.8 billion years old. The star that made our star was part of our galaxy when the 500 million years after the Big Bang started. So our galaxy is 13.4 billion years old. We're just in the 8.8 billion year arm of it. And our star is only 5.63 billion years, and our planet 5.4. And we went from a red planet to a blue planet to a green planet, which brings me to after the dinosaurs came the elves. And the elves are part of what Monique is most connected to. And how they fucked up was they set it up and transferred too good. They didn't bring anything with them but the elves. And so they went through the star into the core of the galaxy, never looking back, leaving everything behind. So no one knows what they did and how they did it. So there was, it's the exact opposite of what the dinosaurs did, but it's just as bad. And then the elves that were left behind, when the humans came along, there's dwarves before this. So I'll stop, but some elves are still around, right? So then God grows the dwarves here. And the dwarves specifically were to come up with a creature that could do what the dinosaurs and the elves couldn't do. And that creature was the human. Okay? But the dwarves had no part of trying to do anything but try to turn the mechanism over to the humans as soon as a human could get into the position to assume the control.
To the chops to do it.
So think Time Bandits. The movie where they were just tinkerers and creators. So I'm a giant dwarf. That's all I am. I'm part of the dwarves. I'm not an elf. And the dinosaurs no longer exist. Other than those that came through the draconian. We'll get into that in a minute, but so I'm giving you history. We can take a break if you want to eat. I should go check on my mom anyway. We can end this as segment 1, and I'll get into, now that I've mentioned the progression of dinosaur, dwarf, human, and I've brought into existence that the lifespan of the human being in what is known as the future on Mars in 28,025 lives longer than our star, the sun's soul, has light to maintain, and they haven't figured out a way to get beyond our galaxy. So they can't get out of the electromagnetic field. They can't figure a way to travel from here to another star, because by the time they get to any other star they're looking at right now, it doesn't exist anymore anyway. And they don't know how to fold the space anymore. And then we showed them how to fold the space, but they still don't know how to. It's a war now that's going on there instead of here because of what we know, and that's what I need to get out and express to you. So we will continue this in a moment.